Hello, family members. Hope you're having a nice day today. Oh boy, do I have one to talk about with you today. um, this is a topic that I think is a little bit sensitive, I'm sure, to some people. But I feel like if we can't get gay people to consistently include our experiences in their understanding of what it is to be queer, not sure how we're going to get like straights on board. And so that's why this video is my plea to all of my gay brethren out there, all my gay sistren out there. Please include aromantic people in your queer discourse. When you think about what it is to be queer and what constitutes the queer community and the interest of queer community, include aromantic people in your thought process. And not just aromantic people, asexual people, um, you know, intersex people, people who are questioning their sexuality, genderqueer people, people who are, non-binary of all sorts, of course. Um, People, demisexuals, demi-romantics, all sorts of different identity. Include us in your concept of what queerness is. Because we're all stronger if we all understand each other and can fight for all of us as a collective. None of us in the queer community are ever going to be in the majority when it comes to our identity. We're always going to be marginalized because the majority of people, even as more and more people are understanding that they're queer and identifying publicly as being queer, there's still an awful lot of straight people running around. And we really can do a lot, I think, if we understand each other, understand the needs and the variations within the community. Like, if I'm the only aromantic person you've ever heard talk about their experiences being aromantic, your conception of what aromanticism is going to be twisted. Because I don't know the entire depth and breadth of aromanticism as an experience. I know my experience. I have read others in my community, and I understand to a certain extent the variation that's there. And I try to present that when I talk about aromantic issues, but I'm going to miss things. I don't know what I don't know, right? Like a good example of this is the aphobia in the James Somerton videos, because he had an asexual friend, and his asexual friend said, "Oh, I don't think that that's a problem." He didn't think it was just aphobic. And I'm like, your one asexual friend does not speak for everybody. you know like, you need to hear from people with different identities and multiple people within those sub communities too. I was struck as I was listening to Cat Black, or watching a Cat Black video earlier today. She was talking about some old reality TV show, like 90 Day Fiance, I believe, that had a trans woman on it who was very interested in getting married to a heterosexual man. And, had gotten in this kind of not necessarily great relationship because of that desire. And Kat was empathizing with her and saying, there is this thing for trans women where being married to a man, especially a heterosexual man, can be extremely validating. And I'm like, yeah, some of the things that you're saying, like how socially, if you're not married at a certain age, people kind of look at you a certain way and da da da. That applies to aromantic people too. That's a part of the queer experience that maybe, we can help people with a bit, because there's nothing wrong with not being married by any particular age. There's nothing wrong with not having sex or relationships or any of that by any particular age. That's not what makes you a worthwhile human. That's not what makes you an adult. That's not what makes you grown up or mature, okay? And, including more of an aromantic perspective in the queer community would be something that would actually benefit people, trans women, who are feeling pressure to, get married and be like, oh, okay, I don't need to give in to that social pressure to validate myself, right? Yeah. One person I think is really good at this is Jamie Dodger, Jamie Dodger. I don't know. I watch his YouTube videos, and he's a trans guy, and he is just really good at including other people's perspectives in his analysis. Because a lot of times, what he's doing is responding to like Reddit posts, or in this particular video is mean comments from his own videos. And somebody had said to him, because he has a beard, how does a woman get a beard? And he's like, well, first of all, I'm not a woman, but, there are a lot of women that have beards, cis or trans. And that's true. Like, my ex-girlfriend, like, literally had to shave. Like, she had, a fair amount of facial hair. If she chose not to shave it, she'd have a beard of sorts, And it was just really nice to hear someone like kind of include her experience and be like, your comment is rude, not just because it's rude to me, but it's rude to people like her too. I'm like, thank you. Like, obviously, that's not necessarily a queer thing, women in facial hair, but, it can be. That's another thing, that is a type of gender affirming care. Even for my ex-girlfriend who is cis, that's gender affirming care. Gender affirming care can be for anybody. Elon Musk getting his, balding head fixed. That's gender affirming care. That made him feel, like better in his body. And, fine. I don't have a problem with that, He should understand that, but he can't because he's blinded himself. But I think it's reasonable to expect those of us in the queer community to do better and to include other people's experiences. And I think one thing that the gay people specifically overlook, other than just the aromanticism, is that identity can fluctuate, Like, there's all this discourse about bisexual people or whatever, and it's just like, people's sexuality is not set in stone, even if they don't have like a fluid sexuality, like in general, it doesn't mean that that can't ever change. My goddaughter, she's 12, and she told me she was aroace this summer, and I was like, you're 12. But I said, okay, cool, and, for now, that's how you feel. Great. If that ever changes, fine. If it doesn't change, that's also fine, because that is, it is fine. If she is Arrow Ace all of her life. There's nothing wrong with that, you know? And it's nice to me to think that if she is, she'll have the space to be that without ever having it really like dismissed or ignored by people in her life. And then also, you know, I gave her the space to say, you know, if that changes at some point and you feel differently, that's fine too, you know? Uh, I don't think that most people get that, you know? I think that there's like this pressure that you have to get it right the first time. And then once you come out, you gotta like stick with it. And that's just not the case, you know? Uh, who you are, what you feel can change throughout your life. And I think a lot of the like micro identities kind of base themselves around the idea that things are a little more mutable. You know, there are different like micro labels that have to do with mutability. And those are the ones that I need to educate myself on more. You know, the fact that I can't just like name all of them off handedly, you know, if I get myself a list of terms, I'll be like, oh yeah, I remember that, or I remember that. Um, but you know, there's a lot of terms that even I don't know, and I try to learn more about, you know? Like, for example, in the movie Lady Ballers, the Michael Knowles character says at one point, "I'm a raging scoliosexual," and I was like, you know what? I know that's a real term that people use seriously, but I don't know what it means. And so I looked it up, and I'm like, oh, okay. Does he know that that's what he's saying? Probably. Because scoliosexual is people who are attracted to trans people. So I'm like, what are they trying to say here? Are they trying to say he's attracted to the lady ballers? That's an interesting thought. I don't know. Or did they just pick whatever they thought the weirdest sounding micro label they could, you know? I mean, you have to admit, scoliosexual does have quite a lot of the like comedy sounds in it, like, you know? Oh, that movie is so incompetently made, it's hard to know, you know, how thoughtful that was. But either way, knowing that made my understanding of how awful they're being even deeper, right? Like, it's hard to defend a part of the community you've never heard of. It's hard to explain things to people if you've never heard of it. It's hard to relate to somebody when they tell you what their identity is and you don't know what that means, you know? And it's very validating if you talk to somebody who does know what your micro label means. Now, anytime that I'm online and I run into another agosexual, we're like, hey, you know, it's kind of like that Spider-Man meme, you know, where they're pointing at each other. Like, you know, it's like, you know, this is somebody who actually knows what I'm talking about. And, you know, anytime that I talk to somebody and they already know what aromanticism is, I'm like, whew, okay, good. We're already like 15 steps ahead of where I have to start, okay? You know? But like, I just think that the queer community would be better off if we all were better educated on the experiences of other people, other types of people within the community. You know, I think that it would be very helpful for the general public to have more understanding of the split attraction model, that, you know, heterosexual, or I'm sorry, your sexual identity and your romantic identity do not necessarily have to match, and that they can fluctuate, you know? Like, that's the one thing, like, I think that demisexual people and demi-romantic people get it, because people are like, just isn't that normal? Like, you don't feel attraction to somebody until you know them? I'm like, no. You know, like, there's a lot of people that, you know, can look at somebody that they will never, ever, ever meet, you know, like a model or whatever, and be sexually attracted to them, you know? Like, being demi is not the same. You know, like, they're probably the reason that there's a lot of people who don't understand how demi is different than romantic and allosexual people, because they're on the demi spectrum and they don't understand that, you know? Like, it would be very helpful if more people who don't necessarily know very clearly that they are some micro label, enough to the point where they seek it out and they find that community. It'd be nice if it was easier for that information to be spread more passively. You know, I'm still a little impressed about the fact that I didn't know about the aromantic community until I was 35, you know? Like, well, I was 34, but, you know, I didn't really come out till I was 35. But, like, you know, how much less angst could I have potentially had along the way? Especially when I was younger. Like, when I was in college, I was just, like, so angsty. Like, I don't feel like I'll ever want to be married to anyone. I can't imagine ever meeting anyone I want to meet, meeting anyone I'd ever want to marry. But it's so hard to not have a relationship. Everyone around you starts coupling up, and it's hard being the single girl hanging out with couple friends. And, you know, then if their relationship breaks up, then what do? You know, how do you stay friends with one or both of them? Or, you know, do you end up being a symbol of the failed relationship to them and you just lose your friends? Or, I mean, or this happened to me. I had a friend who I made friends with her when she was in a bad relationship. And when we got so close, we were like sisters. Like, literally, she got sort of an inheritance after my grandma died, kind of. Like, that kind of closeness. Like, everyone in my family knew her. She was at my brother's wedding. Like, she was family. Family. And then she got in a happy, stable relationship. And she changed, and we stopped being friends. I just didn't hear from her anymore. She just wasn't as invested in me as she was invested in, you know, she had another friend who was engaged, and another friend who was, you know, in a long-term relationship, basically married. And, you know, like, those types of people just fit into her life so much better than her single girlfriend, you know? And so it was just slowly, it died, withered on the vine, and that friendship is just gone. And it's really sad. But that's the thing, like, when you're a romantic, you are supposed to always accept that your friends' romantic relationships have to take priority over you. And I don't understand why society says that, you know? A person's emotional health cannot just be about their romantic partner or lack thereof, you know? People need friends. People need other people to vent to, you know? And I can tell you, I give really great relationship advice. People tell me that all the time, like, oh, wow, I hadn't thought about it that way. Because I have a very outsider perspective. I made a whole video about that. Like, including our perspective also allows you to benefit from what we can see that you can't, and vice versa, you know? There's in the UK, I believe, it's called the LGB Alliance. That's a transphobic gay people kind of organization. And there are people in that group that I can't imagine understand that being anti-trans, the same people who are vocally anti-trans are coming for them too. They just know it's not very popular right now to be openly homophobic in the way that it is to be openly transphobic. And the same exact people that they have to align with in their crusade to end trans people, I guess, those are the same people that'll come for them if they ever find success. And I feel for those people, like, they don't understand that we are in community with them. All people, not just the LGBs, the T's, the I's, the Q's, the A's, the S's, the D's, all the letters that you could possibly imagine. All of us that are queer, that aren't straight, that aren't cis, that aren't allo-romantic, like, all of us who are different than the heteronormative ideal. We are in community together. Our interests lie together. And if we cannot find a way to cement that togetherness and work together as a community, a whole community, instead of little fragmented pieces, then we're going to completely throw away power that we could be using to make the world and our community better and healthier. So, gay people, please, when you think about queer issues, include aromantic people and aromantic experiences and aromantic perspectives and asexual perspectives and demisexual and demi-romantic and, intersex experiences. Because intersex people, I think it's kind of weird, honestly, that intersex people have kind of been thrown into our community because, they literally have a physiological difference. It's not something that people can say, well, I don't see that, so it's not real, I mean, of course, not that intersex people are obligated in any way to show anyone their genitals, just to prove anything. But, like, it's interesting to me, But they do need to be included in our community because they are marginalized, they're erased. I will never forget my grandmother saying that, she worked as a nurse midwife, that it was way more common for intersex babies to be born than you would ever think. And she was, just a single nurse working in, a few different hospitals through one career. So she saw multiple intersex children be born. And, her whole career wasn't all nurse midwifery. She ended her career working with the mentally ill, which I think is kind of neat too. But anyway, so yeah, it's not like that rare. So, and that's just people who have like an obvious external, sign that they are intersex. There are people who are intersex that you wouldn't even know until some point later in life where, you know, they're either like they get a genetic test done or, you know, have some sort of surgery or whatever, you know. So, you know, we need to include those perspectives because the whole, like, you know, gender binary, blah, 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 is so intersex phobic, right? Because it's like just legitimately scientifically wrong, and intersex people are like, what, am I a joke to you? And unfortunately, these dang bigots want to make them into a joke, which is like so upsetting because intersex people deserve better than that, you know? I really think that we need to center the more obscure identities within the queer community a bit. People understand what it is to be gay. People understand, to even to a certain extent, bisexuality, but not really. That needs to be centered a lot more too. But, you know, pansexuality, people don't understand what that is or why it exists, and why bisexuality and pansexuality are both identities that people use, which where like I have bisexual friends and I say pan oriented because I feel indifferent to someone's gender. That is just not what I look at when I don't care about that, you know? Whereas, like, they, you know, they feel differently. Bisexual suits them, you know? They feel attraction to two or more genders, you know? And so, yeah, we need to center those nuances instead of, like, gloss over them. And people who are your traditional gays that are, you know, allo-romantic and, you know, don't deviate much from what people expect gayness to be, we need them as much as anybody to be centering the more marginalized parts of the community. You know, like, the, you know, familiarity makes all the difference in the world. Putting a human face on things makes all the difference in the world. You know, just acknowledging that we exist makes all the difference in the world. And so here is my plea. Pretend I exist. Wait, pretend I exist. I actually do exist. This isn't imaginary. Oh man. Can you tell that my goddaughter just left this morning? Yeah, I had a wild summer, so. Like, I even started making this video yesterday, and I had my goddaughter and her sister here, and I'd put them to bed, and I tucked them in, and I'd done this, and I'd done that, and I'm like, all right, I'm going to sit down and make a YouTube video. And I got maybe like 8-9 minutes in, and then the first crisis, and then another crisis, and then several more crises, and then eventually I'm like, yeah, I'm just gonna have to scrap that and start over. uh, so yeah, sorry if I repeated myself a little bit here, family members. I'm still a little bit in shock because I've gone from anti-mode to solitary hermit mode, and for the next 2 months it's just me and the animals, so you'll probably see me a little bit more often anyway. All right, well, take care, family members, you know, of yourself and of others, and if you have any pets, you know, love them and tell them that I sent hugs and kisses. I don't know how to end this. This is, I'm goofy right now. I need to just let you guys go. All right. Love you. Bye.